Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tish Talks Tech. I am so happy to see you today. It is a wonderful day. We'll give chat a little bit to come online. Uh, Today, we have a fabulous guest. You are not going to believe it. We have Glenn Schneck with us today. And Glenn is probably, let me put it gently, one of the best mainframers on the planet. CICS, um, everything architecture. What am I missing? IBM Champion has been in the game for years. We're talking decades. Has probably built most of the code that we work with. This is Glenn. I am not going to fangirl you. I want you, Glenn, to just grace us with what you got because I'm so excited that you're here and that you even accepted my invitation. I remember meeting you at Share and just being in awe because I heard the legends and the legendary stories. Do you mind if chat comes into play because chat loves to talk and ask questions and whatnot? Do you mind that?
Not at all.
Cool. I'll go ahead and pull that through. And we already have folks coming in. We have Rita talking about, hey, Tish, hi. And here's Caitlin Mooney. Hi, Caitlin. So, yeah, let's go ahead and kick off. So, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Uh, I'm just in awe
Yeah.
with your career. You've done so much
Yeah.
over these times, and I look at you. I know, but when I think about you, I think of, and you have to pardon me, but I think of you as cloud. And I know that you're not cloud, but I think of you as like the ultimate of the architects. But tell us more about you from where you stand, how you see yourself.
Yeah, you're too kind, Tish. I just see myself as a normal CICS systems programmer who's
Really?
been around for a long, long time, has seen a lot, has been able to work in different industries, which is really
Yeah.
nice. Um, but yeah, like you mentioned before, decades. I started July 25th, 1975. I started in a data center in Eastern Pennsylvania for an insurance company. And then from there, I've worked for M&M Mars in their data center. I've worked for another insurance company. I worked for a little small entertainment company in Orlando that people probably haven't heard about for 10 and a half years named Disney World.
That
Uh,
had to be fun.
it was a lot of fun. It was really uh, it's an interesting because you got so much to see, so much behind the scenes, and it's really a fascinating place and a wonderful place. In fact, my wife has been working there for 27 years, um,
Really?
and she's an IT senior manager. She's been there for 27 years. So I've also worked at a bank in finance, worked for a couple vendors. One that people know a lot of, and one was a smaller vendor, which um, had, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, vendor supplied products that I've ever seen to create APIs. Um, and during that stint, it was kind of cool because uh, I was working out in Arizona for um, 3 to 4 weeks a month for 3 years, building APIs to integrate into a IMS system, backend IMS system for parts for a major airline. And we found code that was written in 1976 that still ran today.
Are
And we
you
were able,
serious?
yeah, and we were able to create APIs out of that code with not changing one line of code. And it was really cool.
What?
Yeah, it's the maintenance system on airline. Remember, you know how airline. Um, yeah, sometimes a maintenance guy comes on with a big book of paper, and they
Mm-hmm.
go through and they fix a bolt and they have to sign it. The captain has to sign off. He takes it back. His boss has to sign off, and then it goes into the system. And when it gets in the system, you can leave the airport.
Okay.
But what the work that we did is it took that book away, and they're now using a tablet to do all that, and getting the signatures and everything much faster. So that's kind of cool. But during COVID, I got laid off from there, and I found my way to consulting companies, supporting a government application actually, and we're actually in the end stage of upgrading kicks, which is kind of cool because we need to get it done by the end of the year. But that's kind of what I've done.
You're so you're you put it into a cute little package, and I think that folks will really appreciate what you're saying. So when you say you didn't even have to change a bit of code, and you put all of that information into the tablet, it wasn't just like cut and paste.
No,
That
no, no, no.
can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, the vendor I worked for at the time, um, it was one of the small vendor, and they have a product that could take interface into the mainframe, or actually it can consolidate all kinds of APIs into a single composite API. It's a point and click application. You just basically bring the copybook in, tell them what fields you want, tell them what fields you want out, and it point and clicks and goes and executes it. At the time, it was through IMS Connect. Executes it, gets the data back, and presents it to the front end. It's a really, really slick thing, and it was a lot of fun too. I think we did over 150 to 175 APIs. I'm not sure. It was me and a few other folks. Dusty Rivers was one of them. Dusty.
Yeah.
Um, and we were able to do that and take them away from the manual process, and come up with the tablet process. It was kind of cool.
I just I sit back and I've heard that story before,
Hmm.
and I think about how much time it took to just dream that up.
Yeah,
Like, you could think about it like, oh, it sure would be nice to be able to do something like that.
right,
But to actually see it from soup to nuts had to have been just a feat in itself. But you have all of the skills, you and the team that you worked with, right? Have all the skills to be able to do all of
right.
that. So the folks that usually tune into my show, they're new to Z, and
Hmm.
there are some others as well. But take us back to how you develop the skill to be able to get to that point, because it's not one of those things. And let me just be clear for those of you all that don't know, when you architect something, let's break it down to like what we see that's tangible, like buildings. When you build something, how much thought goes into building that building? You got to buy the land, you got to find out like where the land is going to be, all of the bits and pieces that you have to put into that. Where are you going to source your labor? What type of codes have to be
Right,
met? So before you can even get to that point, you have to be able to get those skills to put
right.
all of that in place.
Yeah.
So how did all of this start for you? Where did you even get the bug to want to get into tech?
Well, I'm a self-proclaimed math nerd.
Ah,
Uh, I my senior in high school, I think I had my last semester, I had like 3 or 4 math classes, physics and advanced math and something else, and they offered a computer math course my senior year.
mhm.
Um, so I said, "Oh, why not?" I took it. It was actually a Fortran programming course, and it kind of got the bug. At that time, I was looking to go to technical college to actually work on computers on the hardware side. But I was fortunate. I was out of town in my senior class trip, and my dad was talking to somebody at the data center, the insurance data center in Easton. And he said, "Yeah, you're telling me about me going to college and this and that and all kind of stuff." And the guy says, "You know," he said, "send him up to us." He said, "We'll train him." And that was the deal at the time, back in the 70s and early 80s, is that you didn't have to go to college. The companies would train you. And I was fortunate. I went there. I started there when I was 17. Um, and I was able to get training through them, through the company. At the time, there was Amdahl computers and there was Hitachi computers. But Amdahl had a very good training thing. Online software at the time, which I believe was bought out by CA, they had an excellent training. And actually, the outshoots of that is Themis software. Themis training is, I
Really?
believe, is the outshoot from online software.
Hmm.
And there's other training companies, Verhoff and IBM had their own training at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in operations there for a while. I met a lovely young lady there. And ended up marrying her for 43 years now. And we were both in operations, so I decided to move to M&M Mars for a couple of years and was able to get back to the insurance company as a VM systems programmer. And they trained me all in the VM. Then I got into CICS. They trained me all in CICS. I got involved in Share in 1987. So I've been around there for a while. And through them training and conferences and stuff like that is where I got a lot of my knowledge and on the job and some mentors on the job. I've worked with some very, very, very smart people who were able to help me understand things outside of kicks and try to see the whole package. And I was fortunate to be able to work with such great people. And so then I decided to go back to college. Finally graduated college in 2008. And I got my master's in 2012. And ironically, my thesis for my master's was integrating the mainframe to the internet.
I love it.
So that was my master's thesis. And that's kind of where I got my knowledge. Unfortunately, today, companies don't look at on-the-job training as much as they should. Now they want you to go to college, which brings in the IBM, used to be called academic initiative, into play. I wish more universities did it because there's a big need out there for old people like me getting ready to retire. Or technically, I did retire and came back, but it's a whole other story. But I wish more colleges would be involved in that education of the next mainframers. I know ECU does a great job with Dr. Say, Northern Illinois, Marist College, and others. So, but if I could tell people one thing, find a good mentor and be a sponge. Take as much knowledge as you can, not necessarily in your area, bring in all different areas. I learned a lot about the entire overall environment back in 2004 or something like that. We did a project for high availability where we'd set up two LPARs identical, and you're able to install software on one while the other keeps running, and basically you have zero downtime. But in order to do that, we had to have this whole environment created through the entire, basically your own, if you want to call it a cloud, which we'll talk about that later. But the whole cloud thing cracks me up.
I know. Potato.
Yeah. But that's my advice: is just find a mentor or find people who have a lot of knowledge in other areas and just
Right.
soak it in and see how it all connects, because it all connects easier than you think.
A lot easier than what you think.
Yep.
Absolutely. So can we talk about, you were saying, even though with the CICS, right?
Mhm.
That was your thing.
Yeah.
But there's other portions that helped you to really shape your career as far as the other services on mainframe. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I've installed and supported MQ series. Um, actually, in one of the companies, I helped bring it in for a specific project, which was really cool. It was voice recognition on the side of people in the warehouse, and it would run into back into the Kix system, which handled the warehousing. And basically, when they picked the item, it would deduct it from the warehouse back in the mainframe, and it would be voice recognition, and MQ was used for that. So um, I've done some DB2. I've
Mm-hmm.
dabbled in VTAM. Um, have a kind of a cursory knowledge of the ZOS operating system itself. But that's what I say about going back and finding areas outside of your expertise, where if you can understand the entire picture, it helps you understand your piece better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when folks think about, because I was just having this conversation with an individual a couple of days ago, and they were telling me, well, I really want to drill down into X. And I
Mhm.
said, but what happens when X is just that portion of the picture, but
Right.
the other service is what's really giving you the problem? You know, what are you going to do? And they were like, oh, well, I really didn't think of it that way.
Right.
Okay. So it's a whole thing. You have to be able to navigate your way through the services.
Yep.
And I think that's the part that a lot of folks just don't get. So when you start to learn, and I love that you bring this up, when you start to learn your products and your services, know that this is a product that you're utilizing, but the other services are also running. So you have to know how to integrate that and be a part of um, both sides. So I love that you bring that up, because that is huge. And I think that as new individuals and new technicians that are on platform, we forget about that.
Right.
So thank you for that. I want to talk to you about other gems, other portions of wisdom that you can give to folks that are eager to learn, because I think that there's other things that we may be missing. What do you see that could help new folks that come into teams? Like you know, maybe there was somebody that's new that comes into your team.
Mhm.
What's something that they can do to be able to mesh well on the team?
Well, there's one thing that they should not do, and that is not ask questions.
Mm,
If you don't, a lot of people are reserved to ask a question because they don't want to look stupid. They don't want to look dumb.
yeah.
My motto has always been the only dumb question is the one you don't ask. Because if you don't know the answer, you don't know something, the only way you're going to find out is asking questions.
Yep.
Um, so that would be one thing there. And I go back to the mentor thing. Find somebody who is willing to mentor you and can lead you along, lead you to where to find things. Not necessarily do everything for you. I would
Right.
rather just say, this is what we need, and here's the things that you can do to reference that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have one guy on our team now that really is not he was more of an applications programmer, but it's a systems programmer. And we
Mm-hmm.
want to build out a new Kix environment. And we said to him, after the new year and after we get through this implementation, we're going to want you to build this environment out. We'll be here to answer any questions you have. Don't be afraid to ask questions, but learn how to research things and learn
Mm-hmm.
how to understand when you put this in, it affects this.
Right.
I mean, um, so basically, give them find if you're new coming in, find a place or an avenue that you could do some testing or learning on your own as opposed to being. A lot of places have a what they call a sandbox environment.
Mm-hmm.
You can go there and screw it up. Nobody's really going to care usually. So find something that you need to do or want to learn and do it over there. And if you have questions, go to your mentor, go to somebody who else, go to the other areas. Hey, I need to put this in LPA list. How do I do it?
Mm-hmm.
and that's how you'll learn. But the biggest thing is don't be afraid to ask questions.
Mm. Mm. So here's the next question, because I get this a lot. How does one find a mentor?
That's a good question. That is a very good question. Mentors, you have to be around somebody who's willing to mentor. You can't
Ooh,
force somebody to do it.
that's it.
I was in a situation at one of the vendors where I was going to learn a new product, and the person that was the expert, the only expert, didn't like to share information. I couldn't force him to do that to me,
Yeah.
but try to find somebody who's willing to mentor. Um, and you usually do. I mean, 99.9% of the time, somebody's willing to share their information and stuff, especially the older, my generation or whatever, because we are getting ready to retire.
Mm-hmm.
We are getting ready to give up the game, which for me is extremely hard, by the way, um, to give up the game. And we want to make sure that the environment and the organization is not lost
Yeah.
with support. So you'll find a mentor, but you will run into some people who just don't want to give information, don't want to provide information. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you look at a job security or, hey, look at me, I'm the best, but I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
You know, you most likely will find somebody. Ask them, will you mentor me? Will you help me?
Right.
Will you show me? You know, and you'll find somebody.
Somebody will come through. Someone will come
Yep.
through. And that does take time. And you have to know how to ask. And you got to find someone that you mesh well with. Um, but that takes time. So how, with you being an expert in the field, what is your method to leaving your legacy behind in code? Do you document, or do you leave good guy? Do you leave? Am I being too personal?
No, no, no. I don't really write a lot of application
Yeah.
code. I do a lot of on the system side. I have written years ago in VM. I wrote some stuff in assembler, and the joke always was that you don't document because it was hard to write. It should be hard to read. So,
I love it.
but yeah, you should document as much as you
Yeah.
can, because you never know what get hit by a bus tomorrow. The old meme where the lady, her wife's praying in front of a grave, and a guy comes up and says, "Did he ever mention where the code was?" You
Yeah.
know. So yeah, document as much as you can, and we actually ran into that when we came to take to the government application. We're taking over from another organization,
Hmm.
and their documentation and turnover was horrible, and we're still finding things. Like last year, we found a thing in MQ where they decided to, I'll go into that, where they took off daylight savings time on MQ. So when
Are
when
you
it
serious?
when it fell back in November, I'm getting calls from the application side saying, "Hey, you were an hour off." So I had to dig down and find out where the parm was, fix it, and stuff like that. But nobody documented it. Nobody told us. So you're going to run into that. You're
Yeah.
absolutely going to run into that. But personally, I'd say document as much as you can. I try to document as much as I can and pass that on to the people I'll be supporting it after I'm gone.
Thank you for sharing that today. I feel like, a lot of times when you all come on the show, you experts especially come on the show and you share these gems. It's like you drop the diamonds all over the place, and people all of a sudden are like, oh, yeah, I didn't do that. Or I'm going to start doing that now. It's a huge thing to be able to document what you have done. And if you're new to the platform, and this is the very first time that you're hearing this, which I hope it's not, but if it is, um, even if you're not writing code or if you're not maintaining, okay, it is good practice to just start documenting the things that you do, because you can see what's going well, what you're doing, what's going well, and how you can actually create and get better. So Glenn is spot on for that. So I'm looking at our questions. I have something else that's itching me in the back of my mind. And this is what I want to know. The mainframe is everything. People sometimes don't know, and they look at it as um, like this mythical thing. What's the one thing that you can say today that could change folks' mind about mainframe being this mythical creature? How, what if you were the marketing expert, how could you do that? What is it that you could tell us?
Well, a lot of people, you're not going to change your mind.
Yeah.
Flat out, you're not going to change your mind. But what I say to people, I said, if I see them in a conference, I said, how did you pay for your airfare? Oh, I used my credit card. Okay. How'd you make your hotel reservation? Well, I did it online. How'd you pay? Use my credit card. All that goes through mainframe.
Yeah.
People who say, I haven't touched a mainframe in years. Well, yeah, you have. Yeah, you have. Grocery stores, retail stores, they're everywhere. So you may not see them. It's like the adage. The only time the mainframe gets publication is when it breaks, which isn't very often. It gets blamed for outages that had nothing to do with. I remember
Right.
the Southwest last year. Oh, it was a software glitch in the old mainframe. No, it was a router problem and a firewall problem. It wasn't the mainframe. So people touch the mainframe more than they even know. And it's not this old big, and I don't watch a lot of movies. I might be blasphemous saying this. I've never seen a Star Trek movie. Yeah, my son's a big Star Trek fan, but I've never seen a Star Trek movie.
Hold on to your chair.
But you see on TV, stuff like that, they portray this mainframe as this thing that takes, a city block.
Yeah.
The tape drives from the 1970s when I was loading them, the 3420s with the vacuum tube, they're still used today. Everybody's using virtual tape, there is no tape drives.
Right.
But today's mainframe is the size of a refrigerator. And it can handle so much more than just, it can handle many distributed servers on one mainframe. And people don't realize that they could be running Linux on their mainframe. So, the mainframe is certainly not dead. It's not going away. It'll be here long after I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
But you just have to understand where they're coming from. And it's a area of lack of knowledge of what the mainframe actually is or does. You just have to explain to them what it really is. It's a computer like any other computer. It just does a lot of work. It's extremely secure. It's extremely reliable. I mean, where I'm at, we have outages on the distributed side a lot. We very rarely have an outage in the mainframe side. Very rarely. So you don't hear about it because it runs. It's stable. Who's going to talk about something that's working?
Right. Yeah. We're only going to talk about like when bad things happen, and that doesn't really happen with mainframe.
Yep.
How do we get the talent over to the mainframe?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Because it's such a rewarding career.
Yep.
It really, really is. And I tell folks all the time, I'm like, do y'all ever stop and look at these people with 40, 50-year careers in mainframe and wonder, why are they over there for that long?
Yeah, I think the couple things have to happen. You have to have management understand the value of it and instead of saying like they always said before, we're getting off. Management has to say, no, this is a platform we're going to use, and we're going to use it for a while. And then management has to understand, and that, yeah, we're going to use this for a long time, and my support is getting aged out. They have to be willing to bring in people to learn, as opposed to bringing in, and I said this in a couple of companies. I said, look, why don't we bring in a trainee, or an intern, whatever, and work them up, because you're going to need a viable workforce in the future.
And people that are hungry.
People that are hungry, and they need to understand, and it needs to be better broadcast, is that there's getting to a point with all the colleges doing all the Unix and all that kind of cool stuff.
Yeah.
That the workforce is oversaturated. The mainframe world is not oversaturated. The mainframe world can provide you a stable career, as opposed to fighting 1,000 people for a job. Maybe you have to fight 50 people for a job.
And 10 interviews. Don't forget that part.
Oh yeah. 10 interviews. Been there, done that. But yeah, it's just that that and salaries. If you make the salaries attractive, people are going to say, I might want to do that. So that's the kind of things that in my opinion, need to be looked at is the salaries, the training, and the willingness to take an intern, take somebody out of college, and bring them over to there. We talked to some people at Share, and I think you probably have too, that came out of college with the computer science degree, knew nothing about the mainframe, but is now thriving in the mainframe environment because they got the opportunity, and they took the opportunity is more important.
And I just don't get it. How do you pay? This is only my opinion, but how do you pay for a full college degree and never know anything about the mainframe?
It's unfortunate. It's what's being taught. I mean, you hear all these stories, and I'll go back to my thesis.
Yeah.
There were in 1993, there was a statement by a gentleman saying that December 31st, 1999, the last mainframe will be turned off. I wrote my thesis in 2012, and it still wasn't turned off. But he since said I was wrong. But it's a perception. It's the perception the mainframe's going away. People don't understand that it's being enhanced all the time. I mean, in Kix, for example, you can run Python and PHP, and Java and C and C# all in Kix and on other applications in the mainframe. Wow. Why not? If you're a Python developer who keeps getting laid off because of this stuff, and somebody wants to do Python in the mainframe, why wouldn't you? But it's just the perception that it's old and legacy. And my question keeps going back. Okay, when's Java going to be legacy? When's Java going to be old? I mean, it's 30
they
years
use
old.
that now a lot in shops.
25, 30 years old.
Yeah.
So when has it become that? COBOL still runs. COBOL's great. It's a great language for what it's used for. And some shops have switched over to Java, but it's not going away. That's the thing that people need to understand. You might as well embrace it and learn it and move to there, because you're going to have a very stable career if you do.
I love it. And this is coming from the horse's mouth. This is coming from someone that has lived the game and knows how to run a team, that has been through the process. Y'all need to listen to this, because Glenn is dropping you some gems that you aren't going to get anywhere else but here. I want to know about something else, and I was kind of afraid to touch on it, but it kind of goes with what we're talking about. There's some misconceptions about the mainframe being old. There's some misconceptions about having to have a degree in order to work on the mainframe platform. Glenn, you were working on the mainframe without a degree. You came fresh out of school, out of high school,
Yep.
17 years old.
Yep. Yep. And it's like in today's society, everybody says everybody has to have a degree, and I don't believe that's true. You can get a degree after you start if you
Yeah.
want, but that doesn't make you a bad systems programmer or applications programmer or support person just because you don't have a degree.
Right.
You know, you could be the top notch person in the world, and if somebody is only hiring for a degree and you don't have one, they lose. They lose you. I mean, not everybody needs a degree. Plumbers don't need a degree. Construction people don't need a degree, but we need them. So why
Come
not?
on, Glenn.
So why not? So why not? You know, if somebody's intelligent enough and hungry enough to learn, why not take them at a younger age?
Mm-hmm.
And that's and more. And again, I'll go back to the whole philosophy of management saying you need a degree, you need a degree, you need a degree. And I'm saying you don't. You need the ability to learn and the logic to understand what the mainframe is and what it does and what the products do and how to use them. It's not, and that's just not necessarily the mainframe. That's any system.
Yeah.
If you're great in Unix coming out of high school, why do you have to get a degree in Unix to be a Unix person?
Right.
You know, so I just think it all goes back to management. And a very, very wise man once said this back in the 80s already, 80s, early 90s, when everybody's saying mainframe's get off mainframe, go to Unix, mainframe's dead, blah, blah, blah. And he called it management by magazine. Because at the time, all the airlines had those little books, magazines in the back pockets of the seats. And that's what he was talking about in the magazines. So they're saying, oh, I have to do this because everybody else is doing it.
That's right.
And I wish a lot of management would be, more in tune with the world as opposed to doing what everybody else is doing.
Wow. Wow. That is management by magazine. Wow. That is something, because when you think about it, it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's what it's like listening to sound bites and just repeating what you hear. And you're not really taking into account of the research that you need to do yourself so that you will understand what's actually happening around you and within your organization. Right.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And I go back to that. People say when people were migrating, not many people I don't think is migrating off today as they did 20 years ago. There's probably good reason for that. You know, we were supposed to be off the mainframe last year, but they now extended to like 2027 at least. But I don't know. It just to me, it's people need to understand what it can do. Like you said, do your research. Here's the problem I have. How do I fix it? What's the best way to fix it? And everybody years ago would say it's cheaper to get off because let's face it, software costs are high.
Yeah.
And maintenance costs are relatively high. But I look back and say, look, do you take into consideration the entire environment? Because you can buy a Unix box and pay, $200 for a license.
Yeah.
But now, do you also take into consideration the power that Unix box uses as opposed to the power the mainframe uses? Or I can get rid of this mainframe, but I need 400 servers to do it. Okay. Well, how many people do you need to support that 400 servers compared to the 10 people supporting the mainframe? What are your costs in employee costs? What are your costs in downtime? How much do you lose for every hour of downtime? And are you willing to accept that risk that you may be down a lot more in a distributed world than you are in a mainframe world? That's all the stuff that they don't take into consideration or didn't take into consideration at the time when everybody's getting off. They just said it's cheaper. Well, it's not
Right.
really cheaper.
Right. Right. Show me the fine print. And it's not even the fine print. It's like the writing on the wall.
Yep. Yeah, it's like a billboard. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, overall costs include your environmentals. It includes your costs for support, um, your overhead costs, and everything. Downtime, to me, downtime is a big thing too, because I have not ever found, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, I've never found a malware or ransomware attack on a mainframe.
Mm.
And how much money does it cost organizations who get hit with one of those attacks? Now,
Mm.
people say, and I said for a long time that we never got hacked, and I'll caveat that is we never got hacked without somebody giving somebody else their password.
Okay.
How easy is it to hack? It's the security is so much better with the crypto security that they have in the mainframe systems, and the
Mhm.
encryption and everything. It's just, to me, it's just so much more secure.
Right.
There's you ever hear of RAS?
Mhm.
Reliability, availability, and serviceability. Which is
Mhm.
easier to do? Which has more reliability? Which has more availability? And which is easier to service? You know, I can run 2 LPARs in the mainframe. So if I make changes, I have to change it in 2 places.
Right.
I could run 400 servers for that same workload. And how many places do I have to patch there? And how do I do
Right.
it? I mean, that's,
Mhm.
to me, that's a serviceability issue. So I just keep saying mainframe's not dead. I'll be dead before the mainframe. I plan to live a long time.
Wow. You know, today's episode is going to raise some eyebrows and shake some trees. And I think that when the coconuts fall, it's going to be wonderful, because this is what we needed. We needed to hear what you had to say today, Glenn. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful because folks don't realize the costs and the benefits. They don't get that we actually need the training. The training has to come through. There's got to be folks to be able to maintain these systems. Um, and not only that, stop trying to get rid of the system because the system works.
Embrace it.
Yes, it works. And it's been working for so long. And the moment that we say, no, we're just going to stop it and we're going to do XYZ, and then everything just goes, it seems like everything just catches on fire. But when you say mainframe and you say, well, can we use this course or this service or this product with the mainframe? Yeah. And then they find out that they can and they add that, whatever that is. I've noticed in my short career, my short time of being on the platform, that things work brilliantly
Mm-hmm.
and seamlessly when it's paired with mainframe technology.
Well, I mean, people don't understand that the enhancements or stuff that came out of mainframe technology. I always crack up when I hear, right? What's the big word today? Cloud computing, right? What
Yeah, go
what
ahead and
is
do your thing.
what is cloud computing?
Another person's computer.
You're just running at another person's data center.
Yep.
And I encourage anybody that's has been born after 1995 or whatever or whenever, look up Ross Perot. Ross Perot worked for IBM. Ross Perot became a billionaire, multi-billionaire, by hosting other people's workload.
Yep.
That is the essence of cloud computing. So
Mhm.
don't tell me cloud computing is new. It's not.
Right.
VM. When VMware first came out, what, the early 2000s, the VMware company, whatever, that was the greatest thing that ever happened in computing. Well, I was on a VM
It
system
wasn't new
program.
though.
I was a VM system program in 1981. and it's around before that. And virtual storage has been in the mainframe since the early 60s. So all these enhancements and really cool things came out of mainframe.
Yep.
So why not use the granddaddy of them all, the one that really runs? So
The one that really runs. Yep. I was talking to Carl Eric Steinfers, and he was telling me about cloud. He was like, I don't even know why they call it cloud, but if that's what you want to call it, and now you're saying
it's outsourcing. That's all.
you're like,
Outsourcing your workload. It's outsourcing your workload to somebody else.
isn't it? Why not?
Yeah.
I love how you all break it down, and I love what you just said. Look up Ross Perot, and if you want to do it, find the people that did it before you did, and look at how you just laid it all out for us.
Mhm.
Glenn, how when you decided that you were going to be like this, first of all, let me ask you this: did you decide that you were just going to be brilliant? Like, no, seriously. Like, did you say, I am going to do this and I'm just going to be the best subject matter expert? Or did it just kind of fall into your lap? How did it happen?
A little bit of both. I mean, I had the opportunities. The opportunities fell into the lap, if you want to call that.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing about opportunities is you have to take advantage of them. And
Yep.
people get opportunities they don't take advantage of, and they may regret it later on. I was able to have the opportunities, and I also had, and I don't like to talk about myself, but I've had the drive to
You
learn.
have to.
I had the drive to learn,
Yeah.
I do want to be the best system programmer kicks guy that I can be. Am I the best ever? No, I know a couple of people that are brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But that doesn't mean I can't be the best that I can be.
I
And
love that.
that's what I want to do.
I like that a lot. So, what's hot right now? How can people that are new to Z
Mhm.
and they're thinking, okay, COBOL kicks or just kicks, or what should I do? What's your take on that? How should they navigate their career of not necessarily their career, but navigate what they need to learn? What's your
Well,
take on
find out what you're passionate about,
that?
and,
Mm-hmm.
and then zero in on that. If you don't know, then look at a couple different things. There's some education companies out there that are online education, InnerSkill and ProTech.
Mm-hmm.
I think ProTech's more of a teacher-based. I don't know if they're totally online, but look at those and see if they're things. IBM has what used to be called master the mainframe.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if it's still called that, but you could probably find information on it if you do
Z
that.
Explorer.
Pardon?
I think they call it Z Explorer now.
Explore.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use that as a way to learn. And then
Mm-hmm.
and once you start learning stuff like that, you'll focus in on what you really want to zero in on. But Z Explorer and check out the InnerSkill and ProTech, and you should be able to find your passion and follow your passion.
I like that a lot. I like it a lot. Find a mentor, get yourself some training, start discovering. Doing things on your own helps you
Mhm.
to refine yourself, and
Right.
you kind of get comfortable with starting to ask questions. I love how you drilled that down for us in the beginning, to ask questions because it's important. So we have just a few minutes left, and I don't want to take up so much of your time, but I have to know, how do you relax?
How do I what?
How do you relax?
How do I relax?
Yeah.
Um, I like to play golf. It's frustrating as hell, but I still like to play it.
Are you
I'm a,
good at it though?
no, no, not really. Uh, I'm a big sports guy. Season tickets to UCF football. We go there, tailgate, have a lot of fun with the people there. I spend time with my lovely wife. Whatever, we could relax just sitting around having what we call tea, which is actually champagne, but we call it tea. Uh,
We love that.
but also there's two little blonde girls that live across the street that are they're the apple of my eye. I love to be around them.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And do you cook?
I dabble. I don't really cook a lot. I do have a smoker and I like smoking some stuff.
Okay.
Grilling, we do grill, and my wife and I sometimes cook together. Not very often, not as often as we will when we retire. I hope. Um,
Yeah.
she's an excellent cook, which is probably why I gained so many pounds. But yeah, so but that I like to cook. Just chill, just watch mindless movies on TV. So some stuff I don't have to think too much in my day job. I don't need to think when I watch TV. Comedies,
I
that kind of stuff.
I like that. And let me see. I had something that was itching in the back of my head, and I'm looking at our notes here, and that I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you this. How do you, this is it. How do you take what you do in everyday life and kind of, or what you do in your work life, and separate that from what you have in everyday life? Because I hear a lot from different ones. You can't let your work life define you,
Correct.
especially when you're a technologist.
Correct.
How do you do that?
Um, I'm just able to, I would say, turn it off. Um, but I find what else I do other than my work life to relax just helps it go away. Now, if there's a big problem or I'm working on something big and stuff like that, it might carry over a little bit because I'm thinking about it off hours and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I just try to do. Um, I try not to think about too much of work while I'm doing other stuff, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that helps relax. You know, I know a lot of people that are driven by work, and they don't seem to have a happy, fulfilling life. To me,
Mm-hmm.
because they have nothing but work. They're defined by their work. I want to be defined by being a good person, by helping other people, by treating people with respect. And I always tell my kids, my motto is treat people the way you want to be treated, and your life will be fulfilling. And you need to separate work from your personal life, otherwise, you're going to have trouble in your personal life because you can't forget about work.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So let me ask you this: with all of the conferences that are out there, which conference do you think new people should come to? Which conferences would benefit them the most?
Share, without a doubt. Um,
Share.
yeah, if you look at all the other conferences like the IBM Tech Exchange, this and that, they're almost always IBM solutions, IBM, and believe me, it's great education, great
Yeah.
education. Share gives you the ability to meet many other users in a setting where it's encouraged to exchange information about other things than IBM.
Mm-hmm.
Like talking about the API thing I was talking about earlier. You won't see anything on that at Share or at Tech Exchange because it's like you might, but it's very rarely. Um, the company that we did that for actually has done presentations at Share of what we did,
Oh
and
wow.
you get more of that at Share, and you get um, more interaction and more exchange. I mean, I met you at Share. You
Yeah.
know, I would have known that you did this, or I would have known we were for the same company, and I wouldn't have known. You
Well,
know,
I separate my personal my IBM Champion stuff from work,
and
my
that's
personal life from work. But yeah, I don't ever talk about that. But yeah, you're right. And I think that share for me is more of like user group, like what you're saying. And
it
so
is
you get that concentration,
yeah,
right?
it's the only
Frame.
it's only the user run conference that I know of, and it's
Yeah.
been around since 1955. It's going on. I've been going since 1987,
Hmm.
but it's been around since 1955, and it's the only, to my knowledge, it's the only user driven conference. There's a lot of IBM presentations. There's a lot of Broadcom presentations, um, but those presentations are supposed to be geared towards solutions as opposed to product pitches.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that to me, that's a big difference.
Right.
And that it's user driven.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I was encourage if you have the opportunity to go to one conference, it would be share.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that. I see that. And then last but not least, do you have anyone that you want to shout out before we end?
I've had so many good mentors in my life. All the guys at Hersley have been fantastic to work with. IBM Level 2, there's a couple of guys there, Jimmy Growell and Eddie Addison. Now Andre Clark's becoming the sheriff, but those guys are fantastic. You can call them if you need something. Um, Obviously, my family, my wife has been a huge supporter of me. I couldn't be where I am today, I don't think, without her and her support. But I will say that if anybody wants to ask me questions or whatever, just hook me up on LinkedIn, and I'd be willing to talk to anybody or answer any questions anybody has.
I love it. I love it. Your session is going to be on IBM New to Z. So in the IBM Z and I'm sorry, the IBM and Linux One community. And so anyone that is on the IBM Z and Linux One community, you're more than welcome to register, and you can be able to get in touch with Glenn through that portal as well as LinkedIn. He's given permission. I'll make sure that on YouTube that the YouTube description is updated with the links. Glenn, thank you for accepting my invitation. You are just, to me, like I said, the architect's architect. And
Thank
I just appreciate so much your contribution to tech and the mainframe because you are truly inspiring.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I will see you in March.
See you in March, and I'll go ahead and close out our session. Thank
Okay.
you, everyone, for coming through and sticking with us. I would like to thank Glenn Schneck for coming on. Thank you, everybody over at Share and IBM and all of you out and LinkedIn and everywhere and YouTube. Thank you, Aloft Hotels, for providing the space today. Really appreciate you all for doing that. Having to find where my cameras are. Thank you for that, and I will see you again next week. And you all have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us here at Tish Talks Tech. Me and Glenn, and I'll see you next week with our other guest, and you are not going to believe who it is. So I'll talk to you soon. Have a
Thanks.
wonderful day.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you. All righty. Bye-bye.